everyone, and welcome to Read This Now, the weekly webcast where Brad Gustafson and I share two books that we love and we think you should read. When, Brad?
Right now, people.
I like that pause. I was like, what is he going to
Yeah,
say?
pause for dramatic effect, right?
I love
Like
it.
one of these things.
Exactly. I believe the pros call it a hook.
Thank you. Yes,
There you
yes.
go. Well, what have you been reading this week?
I got a good one. Just a
Yay.
heartwarming story. And so I work in a school. I'm an elementary principal, and this is my 11th or 12th year at the school I'm at right now. And I'm just going to guess that most educators, if you're at this long enough, you'll encounter a kiddo, or maybe it's even in your own family, who is battling leukemia, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a heartbreaking thing. It's the highs are high and the celebrations are high, and the lows are really low, and it's just it's important. And this book brought me back to a kiddo that we've had at our school. Right, it just takes you back. So in addition to being a dad, it just all these different reasons I fell in love with this book. I also was thinking, because it is about a family whose son is diagnosed with leukemia. I'll take the mystery out of it right now. It's called Ride with Emilio,
Mm-hmm.
written and illustrated by Richard Nares. Um, it helps you look at the journey differently than I had ever done as a principal. I know kind of on the school side of things what our teachers and community and did as part of it. But what I didn't think about is like things like getting to the hospital and how that works for some kids and how it doesn't work for other kids and families. So it also made me connect to, like, in this day and age, what I'm noticing, maybe it's social media, but more and more kids are like empowered to make differences in the world, it seems like, or at least I'm aware of it now more. But this reminds me like of real work that's being done, and it's like a cause. So for any kiddo who wants to help, like specifically for families who have trouble getting their kiddos to chemo appointments, like
Mm-hmm.
the dad involved in this started a foundation where not only are they doing transportation now, but at the end of the book, it kind of highlights how they're doing sewing classes, knitting classes, crochet classes. They have resources, snack bags. They even invented shirts that flip open near the top for some chemo access that kids are
Yes.
more comfortable with, instead of having
Mm-hmm.
to derobe and stuff. So anyway, I recommend Ride with Emilio because it's good just as a human being to read and hear this. There are other layers to it that I kind of alluded to or told a couple stories with, but just a really important read, enjoyable, uplifting. It's one of those reads that when I read it, um, like I could feel myself getting a little more emotional on the human level. And I
Sure.
think that's good to be just to have that happen sometimes too. So
Yeah, and so, I think I love books that help educators in particular just maybe see a bigger piece of the picture than the one that they see at school in terms of how lots of things affect a child's life. It's like it's just broadening the view a little bit. But I wonder, is that book, would that do the same thing for kiddos as well, or do you see it as more of a book for adults?
no, definitely for kiddos. So I really say read this now for everyone. But
Mm-hmm.
specifically, if you are a teacher or a parent or a kiddo who might be listening, who has either someone in your life, or it's you or someone you love or someone you teach or someone down the hall from you on this journey of leukemia and childhood cancer, this is a must read. Like, stop the recording, stop the show, and go read it, because it really does talk through in really simple terms. um, I could see teachers, principals using conversations in this. Like one page in particular, I didn't flag this, but it talks about, like, on good days, Emilio was able to return to preschool. His teacher helped him and his classmates understand what cancer is and what cancer is not. And then on the
Mm-hmm.
whiteboard, it says, cancer is not contagious. So it does have little, very, it's written at a really elementary level. However, I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy, I don't know if enjoy is the right word. I enjoyed it as an adult too. So picture
Mm-hmm.
books can be for anyone, but definitely for people in living through those experiences, I think it would really
Yeah.
speak to their hearts.
Gosh, picture books are just so like they just transcend age in terms of audience, even though there might be a target age for them. They just lend themselves to rich conversations and experiences for learners of all ages. I love them. And per usual, we're kind of on the same page as of our recommendations because I'm going to share a picture book as well today. But as you were talking about your book, it reminded me of the thing that I thought about when I was reading my book this week as well. I'm going to geek out for just a second and share an instructional strategy that you may not have heard of, but that I've used for years and I just love. It's called Written Conversations. It's by Smokey Daniels. He wrote a book on the subject, but essentially the idea behind a written conversation is it's kind of a precursor to a verbal conversation. And what it does is imagine it forces people in that conversation to focus on a source material rather than each other first. And so that once the conversation happens between the people, they've already unpacked the source content. So
Mm,
let me give you an example. Like I used to do written conversations asynchronously in my library to introduce new books. So what I might do is put up either the cover of a book. If it was a book that had a dust jacket, maybe I would laminate the dust jacket and put it up and then put some butcher paper and some post-it notes and allow kids or adults as they come in and look at the new book to answer questions like, what do you see in this cover? Can you make a prediction? What are your thoughts, et cetera, et cetera. And then, if that book gets checked out and read, you have other conversations with people face to face, but the source is the focus at first.
mm,
So all that to say is that one time I remember putting up a cover and this whole conversation ensued between kids about the cover and about the person on the cover and who they looked like. And it wasn't a famous person, but rather some person started by saying, oh gosh, the kid on that cover looks just like my brother. And then someone said, oh my gosh, he looks just like my cousin so and so. And they went on to talk about, and I noticed that the more people who recognized themselves or some family member in the cover, the more the hold list for that book grew.
mm,
And there's the old adage, don't judge a book by the cover, but of course we all do, right? We all do.
mhm.
And that was a lesson for me as sort of a newer librarian about how important it is for kids to see themselves on the cover of things, right? Or to see their experience on the cover of things, to let them know, oh, this is a book that story might be relevant to me, right? So that's a long way to go to introduce this book, but I kept thinking about that experience as I read this picture book, which I think just came out this last week, called Eyes That Kiss in the
Mm.
Corners. And it's by Joanna Ho and illustrated by Dung Ho. I haven't read enough to know whether or not those people are related, but essentially, it's a story of a young girl who notices that her eyes look different from a lot of her friends. And I want to just read the first couple of pages to you if I can. The first page, which librarians will know is called the verso page, it's the page that has things like the copyright and all that other kind of stuff on it.
Hey, Jen, how do you spell that? I've never heard that before. Verso,
Verso,
V-E,
you're testing me, but I think it's VERSO.
something like that. Okay. I had
Somebody
to
will
make sure I
correct
was
me.
hearing you right. Got it.
Yes, yeah. But it has like the copyright date and
Mhm.
other like information that the publisher puts in order for catalogers and other things. Anyway,
Yeah.
on that page, usually it's blank, but on this one, you can see this young girl and she's looking in the mirror, right? And that's a powerful thing because you think, what do kids see when they look in the mirror, right? And the first page begins with, some people have eyes like sapphire lagoons, with lashes like lace trim on ball gowns, sweeping their cheeks as they twirl, big eyes, long lashes. Not me. And you can see she's just with her friends and they're having a friendly thing, and you can't see her face quite yet, but she's noticing that her eyes are different. And then she says, it goes on, I have eyes that kiss in the corners and glow like warm tea. My eyes are just like mama's. And you can see there's her eyes. And then she goes on to talk about her mother's eyes. And then she goes on to talk about her grandmother's eyes. And then she goes on to talk about her younger siblings' eyes. And they're all eyes that kiss in the corner and glow like warm tea. And all the different things that are held in those eyes, not just in terms of how they look, but the emotions and the history and the culture and the family, etc. And I won't read the whole book, but then towards the end it says, my eyes that kiss in the corners and glow like warm tea are a revolution. And it says, they are my eyes, they are mama, they are ma's, they are Maymay's, they are me, and they are beautiful. And there's the whole family together. And it's
absolutely
just
beautiful.
Oh, it is so powerful. And I just kept thinking about the power of seeing a story, seeing someone whose maybe name is spelled in a way that's similar to yours or sounds like people in your family, the author and the illustrator of this book, for example, the person, the girl on the cover, the whole story, to kind of affirm that you're different. Everyone, we're all, but you may be different from a lot of the people that you live around, but that makes you no less beautiful. So I love that. Anyway,
Hey, Jen,
my eyes that kiss in the corner. There you go. Go ahead.
Incredible. Yeah, I was in love with that book the second you shared it, and the art and the title. It's just like, oh, awesome. It occurs to me that book talking, like this thing that we do because we love reading, is also kind of like, in a way, showing kids, like tapping them on the shoulder, like you're on the cover. This is you. This could be for you. You know, not to assume what they should and shouldn't read or what they may or may not like, but sometimes it's making those important connections that kiddos wouldn't come across had we not been talking about it. So there is really power in not just loving these conversations, Jen, but like it's a really important thing that I believe educators do, and doing it with intention. It's like, it's just really important.
I'm going to break out an old school term here. I'm sure there's probably a more up-to-date term for this. But when I was back in teacher school and when I was a classroom teacher, the term I first became aware of and that has stuck in my mind is bibliotherapy. The idea of using books to mediate trauma. And trauma is a powerful word that we often associate with a huge event. But trauma can also be really small and internal and about messages that we carry in our heart that affect the way we perceive ourselves and that we perceive others. And books have this beautiful way of affecting that trauma, especially in the internal one, by letting us just know that we're not alone. And sometimes by helping us discover paths out of that dark place. Obviously, lots of books are just fun and make us laugh and we enjoy just for lots of other reasons, but they also have this powerful way of healing our hearts. And so the more we can talk about books in that way, the more tools we have in our arsenal when we find a kid who may just need a hug at that moment.
Well said, well said. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, my friend. So all these wonderful books we've been chatting about today and over the last 3 years, where can our 3.5 viewers find our archive?
Highly recommend you check out bit.ly/read_this_now. And thanks for asking that question, because I think I was in a speechless mode of just how much I loved your book. So thanks for reeling me back out of it.
We never planned this, and yet we always end up like with some kind of connection between our books. I think it's because together we kind of share one brain or one heart or something.
I think it's because you're very talented at making connections, but okay, we'll go with what you said.
I'm trying to make it a deeper thing here, Brad. Thank you, everyone, and happy reading. We'll see you next week.